Welcome to the Vibe Marketing Lab.
All right, if you were with us at the start of the conference, we told you about the Vibe Marketing Lab, where we've got marketers working on vibe coding projects on behalf of a nonprofit called Harlem Grown. I'm going to turn things over to Mark Sirkin, author of the Vibe Marketing Manifesto that was published here on Martech, and Sean Godin, principal AI engineer Martech at HubSpot, as his sweatshirt will tell us, to see how things are going. Mark, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. And hey, everybody. Welcome to the first of a couple of check-ins today. I'm going to hand it right away to the CEO of a great agency in Raleigh, North Carolina, Greg Boone, who's working on some really cool stuff. Greg, what you got cooking so far?
Yeah, man, I'm cooking up some stuff, what I'm calling kind of the kids corner. I'm trying to figure out how I do something for the kids. How do I get people involved, both the parents, the kids, Harlem Grown. So I got a little bit of some comic book stuff cooking right now. I didn't want to quite show yet, called Harlem Comics with the Fantastic Five. So it's a little children's book. Then on the other side, I have kind of a learning platform so that the staff and the kids can work together on it. So excited to show that a little bit later.
That's awesome. And just so everybody knows, at the end of the day, we'll bring everybody back and do some demos and show some things. Sean, over to you.
Yeah, great. So happy to be here. And just wanted to turn this over to Melissa. Melissa, I'm really excited about some of the work you're doing. I'd love to have you share it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So it's Milt and I, and we are working together on a micro donation campaign. And the idea is that you would go to Facebook or see this on Facebook, and then it would lead you to a landing page. And I just wanted to tease a couple of things for our audience and share some of the initial thinking that goes into it. And basically what we did is Milton and I started with a conversation, and that's why they call it vibe coding, right? Is because we were vibing, we were describing what we were doing. And then from there, we were able to create what's called a PRD, or product requirements document. And this wonderfully formatted document was actually created by Claude in response to the conversation that we had. And then we can take something like this, which is essentially a creative brief for the Claude code, and it starts to ingest this. And then from there, it starts to create the code and create the solution that we're doing. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
All right. Our Vibe marketers are going to keep working. We're going to have another check-in later on today. And then at 3:30 Eastern for the final session of the MarTech conference, we're going to get everybody together. That's also going to be our chance to see what Mark and Sean are working on and see what they've got in store for us. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for our next session, which is navigating identity in a cookieless, compliant world. There's live Q&A coming up after that session. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig Schinn, the co-founder and COO of Actable.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and good morning. Welcome to Navigating Identity in a Cookieless, Compliant World. I'm Craig Schinn. As mentioned, Actable is a brand where this is part and parcel to us, because what we do is customer analytics. And at the fabric of customer analytics is customer identity. And we've got a super exciting conversation today. We've got a couple of handpicked experts, Jay Mandell, who's the founder of the Clean Data Alliance, who's doing great work to help to increase awareness and a standard for what great data looks like with identity as a core component of that. We have Mourao, who is global customer CRM senior manager at Stanley Black & Decker, but importantly, outside of her day job, is an author, influencer in the space, has a lot to add to this panel. And then we have Amar Ramakrishnan, who is SVP of product at Osano, who is a SaaS company who has a compliance product that helps brands with GDPR, CCPA. Great panel, tons of experience here. Just as a reminder for the audience, if you have questions or comments during this session, please drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to address them during Q&A later in the. Now, I want to get our panelists engaged as soon as possible. So first, a quick question for the panel. What does everyone think the biggest challenge is with customer identity today? And Jay, I'm going to turn that over to you first.
Scraps of garbage are informing who we are and what we believe and what we think. We have all different types of data out there in the world. There's third-party data, there's second-party data, there's first-party data, and there's zero-party data. Zero-party is what's collected from a company, a person. They say it. When you get to first, you're starting to infer. When you get to second, so the first is the stuff you collect from a website, what you did, what you clicked, etc. Second party data would be something that someone did on one website and it sold to another, or one property and sold to another. And third is these data brokers, and they just take lots and lots of stuff and make up lots and lots of stories. So identity should be what I believe my identity is, not what someone else infers about my identity.
Great, thank you. Anna.
I would say that the siloed data inside companies, right? Especially large, complex companies. The data may be so siloed that you are not even able to unify or to have an idea of the quality of the data you have because you cannot see it together. I've seen that as a big barrier throughout my experience.
Thank you, Anna. And Amar.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. And if you don't mind, can you repeat the question again? I think this is a good question.
Yeah. The question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge with customer identity today?
Yeah, I agree with Jay and Anna. I think for us, what we look at is it feels like if you are running a business, it's all or nothing. You should be allowed to run a business with integrity, earning the trust without either being vilified or being told, oh my gosh, you're in my business. No, we're trying to provide a service. And I think there's so much hyperbole, there's so much lack of understanding of regulation, and it's sad, right? Good businesses get kind of peanut buttered with a whole bunch of other not good players.
All right, well, this is going to be fun. So I'd like to transition to get a little bit of feedback from the audience. First, for the MarTech team, please launch the first poll. I'll take some time to explain to you, the audience, what you need to do. Please enter your first name and click on the Join Audience button. Then click on the polls icon in the top right corner of the video window. You'll see a poll come up on that right side panel of the video window. Please select one option. We're going to give you 20 seconds to everyone to have a chance to respond. And again, I'll repeat it in case anyone wasn't ready for it. You'll be asked to join the audience to participate in this poll. Please enter your first name, click on the Join Audience button, click on the polls icon in the top right corner of the video window. You'll see the poll come up in that right-hand panel. Select one option. Okay, I think that spent us 20 seconds. Let's bring up the results So, all right. In this case, we have a wide variety of answers, which is frankly a little bit unsurprising to me from having seen dozens upon dozens of brands and the way they've approached this. So a little better than a third are using a CDP to define customer identity in the organization. And then about 44% are split between an identity provider and then not knowing what identity resolution really is. So I think we have some education to do in this panel. And then a little less than 1 in 5 IT team handles it. So thank you. There may be edges in between those answers. So appreciate the audience giving that sort of feedback. Now, I'd love to, with that background in mind, let's start to think about, for you, the panelists, this panel comes up as getting away from third-party cookies, right? And that, for so many brands, can be so daunting. And I want to turn, or Anna, I want to turn this over to you and give us a little bit of context for use cases you've seen with customer identity, perhaps how tools like clean rooms, CDPs interplay with that, and what you might recommend for like brands looking for the quickest time to value.
Sure. So I think that clean rooms offer a great way to leverage second party data, as Jay was explaining, because a brand can leverage its own first party data and then safely and securely scrub that data against a publisher or a partner, right? And then the brand can have the opportunity to activate upon that knowledge. So let's say you could brand could scrub the data against a big retailer, a partner, or a publisher, and understand the overlap of their own first party data with that second party data, right? The data from that partner, from that retailer. And for instance, understand that their most loyal customers for the brand overlap with the buyers of a specific product line in the retailer's website. And then you have something that you can activate and test, right? Because then you can go to your partner and say, you know what, let's act upon that overlap that we have on our audiences. And that brings you other ways to enrich your data and to activate your first party data. Again, a data clean room implies that everything that is in there is consented. All data is consented and all data is anonymized. So no partners see each other's data and everything is done safely and with consent. So I see that as a big opportunity.
Great. Amar.
Yeah. Listen, I was looking at the responses and I was listening to Anna, and I suspect, I'm a little bit of a noob here. I think there's a lot of experts in this room. So I would say she nailed it. But what I would say is it's almost like use the same thing you use as a parent or as a partner. Like, don't try to manipulate people. Don't use dark patterns. Like, some of these things are common sense, right? Like, it is okay to get consent if you do it with transparency and integrity. And the other one we would tell our customers is trust these regulations. If you actually follow them, you don't have to optimize for consent. That's where you kind of go off the rails. If you act with integrity, you're doing it. And then, like Anna said, like, it doesn't matter if it's first or third party. People understand. They will give you the freedom. They just need to understand what they're getting in return and that you're being open with them. But I love what she said.
Excellent. Jay.
Well, thank you for saying that, both of you, because Anna and I go way back. I'm going to try and call you Anna from here on out. I went through our Clean Data Alliance training with her after our prep call, and it reflects what she said. The reality is that companies can and should use second-party data, but they have to be honest about it. And so at the Clean Data Alliance, we have defined a sort of data standard. And we say that the information should be verified, it should be permissioned, it should be longitudinal, which means that it's collected over time, not just a moment in time, and it has to be anonymous. So at the end of the day, that is the standard that we are going for. And a privacy policy is a standard thing that is across the industry. And when it's 30,000 words and it says, we'll do whatever we want with it, however we want to do it, whenever we want to do it, and we're going to hold your information forever, that's what's called a contract of adhesion. A contract of adhesion is not something that a person willingly agrees to. They have to click it in order to get to the website. And so we're trying to usher in a new era where you can use first party, second party. I wouldn't use third party if I were you. But sorry for the church bells. It's right next door. I can't help that if you hear it. But what I'm basically saying here is that why don't we have something instead of the contract of adhesion privacy policy? Why don't we call it the Human Data Rights Agreement? And the Human Data Rights Agreement will be transparent, it will be forward, and it will be, you'll have a nice, clear language. It will be customer focused, and we'll say, this is what we're doing, this is what we won't do, and this is how you as the customer are central to the way we operate. That's what we advocate for at the Clean Data Alliance.
Great. I would add while I wouldn't base identity solely on third-party data, we've seen some nice applications for third-party data for some brands where there might be a paucity of first-party data that we recently had one case study where we worked with a third-party data provider to enrich long-churned customers to understand, well, who was that customer since? And we actually found a 10% lift in win-backs from that. So there are definitely some utilities for
There are
third-party
some
data.
utilities. I just want to
Yeah.
add one thing, Craig, that's what we found. We recently bought from a third-party broker data, and we checked it out for one of our board members. And it had this whole list of things. She loves pets. It's either she loves pets or she doesn't love pets. And she said she doesn't love pets, but the third-party data broker said that she loves pets. So I guess my point is that not all data is created equal. And I agree that there are use cases for third-party data, especially if they're scrubbed through a system like I would imagine your company could do with like deep analytics. But just know that all data is not created equally.
That's fair. Yeah, you have to proceed with a degree of caution based on the source of that data. 100%. Well, let's move on to our next question. This is already coming up in this dialogue, but maybe we haven't hit enough on first party data, right? And first party data, the industry, we as leaders in this industry talk about first party data as the holy grail of a post cookie era. But consumers are oftentimes hesitant to share data that they might perceive to be protected or they don't want to get out there. So what are the most effective value exchange strategies you've seen brands use to earn high quality consent without creating friction in that user experience? And Jay, let's go to you first.
Did you ever hear the saying, if you don't know, you better ask somebody? I think they use it in rap songs sometimes, but that's what I'm advocating for. There's a lot of conversation about first-party data. As far as I'm concerned, first-party data is the data that you observe people doing. So if you observe that someone took an Uber ride from New York to Connecticut, that's all you know. But what if you ask the question, why are you going to Connecticut? That might be a little creepy. But let me ask you this. If you're using a Peloton bike, for example, and you said in the onboarding of Peloton, do you have any injuries? What kind of music do you like? When the person answers that, the value exchange is that they're going to suggest rides that don't compound the injury, and they're going to suggest music that they like. That's zero-party data when you ask directly. And so what we advocate for at the Clean Data Alliance is to, when in doubt, ask, and then you'll get truth. And then you could fill in details with first-party data, second-party data, and even third-party data.
Okay. Anna.
Yes, that's actually an important distinction, Jay. I think we marketers use zero and first-party data interchangeably a lot, right? But the idea here is that you should really ask. So ideally, we should be collecting more of the zero-party data, right? The one where we ask, where did you hear from us, or what did you purchase, or what your interests are, etc. And to Craig's point, I think that there are different value that you can offer, but in my experience, it is really the organic growth that helps the most, that brings, or the organic reach that brings the most qualified data, really, right? So people looking for your brand, and then they have an easy way to sign up, first of all, and to give that data to you. And second of all, you also have a privacy policy or a human data rights agreement that is very clear, that really align expectations on how that data is going to be stored, protected, used, and the benefits that the customer can have by providing that data, right? I think that's also a very important point. You should only collect data for which you can use to improve the customer experience in your own digital properties. So that's the whole thing. You should be collecting data that you can use to improve the experience, never data that you won't use for that end just because you want to have it. No, just make sure that you can improve the data. You can improve the experience by collecting that data. So I would say that as well.
And Amar.
Yeah, I think Anna nailed it towards the end. Again, I'm talking to really smart people here. What I would say is, it is tempting to kind of go deep in this, but at some level, this is inside baseball. Like, we exist to serve. We are businesses. Let's not forget zero, first, second. I'm a computer science guy. We always do zeros, and I want to start programming with arrays and all. But like, this is all weird for end user. They just want to do what Anna said at the end. Do I know why you have that? Did I have control on how you got it? And is it being used in a way that serves me, or is it just serving you? And if we ask ourselves this question constantly, even though we are in the depth of finding value, we won't lose sight of what we're here to do. So that's what I would add.
Well, thanks, Amar. Let's keep the mic with you here. So we talk about value exchange, but there is a fine line between relevant and creepy. As we move toward consent-driven relationships, how should marketing teams recalibrate personalization algorithms to ensure they're respecting privacy boundaries while still hitting their conversion KPIs?
Yeah, and this one just makes me chuckle because I was thinking about this, and I suspect every one of us has an experience where we're probably just tucking in for the night or stretching, and or with our partner, and we're talking about something, and in one of our phones, here comes an ad. We're like, okay, what? And the first word that comes to mind is creepy. In fact, I'll give you an example. Last night, I was opening mail in my kitchen real time. And it's one of those, all of you have had it. Hey, do you know your home insurance is expiring? And I'm the gift from God. I'm going to give you insurance you really need. And the weird part was, this time, it had a picture of my front lawn. I was like, what the heck? And I know I blocked myself on Google, and I was like, this goes back to what Anna said. Did you think it through? Well, you actually have burned my trust. You didn't need to do this. You just got clever. And now I'm going, why are you sending a picture of my own when you not even earn the right to have a conversation with me? This is a good example of, don't be too clever for your own sake. We're a B Corp at Osano, and there's a lot of words if you go look at the B Labs. But what we are here to say is, we want to help customers, which is our customers, where business say, just act with integrity. Remind people not just once. You might have to remind them a couple times, you gave me consent. It's okay to remind them gently. It's okay to remind them clearly that it's our job, education. You gave me consent. I'm using this for you. I hope you're still okay. If you change your mind, you can remove consent. So we give those kind of tools, but I would stop there because I think we shouldn't downplay the audience. They are pretty smart. They can sense relevant versus creepy like that. And I'm on the inside, but boy, that I'm never going to give them my insurance business.
Anna, I saw you nod along. What do you have to say in the relevant, creepy, respecting rights, but still hitting conversion KPIs?
Exactly. That's a great example because it's so easy to be creepy. And I think that us marketers, sometimes we miss that line. It's easy to miss that line when you are chasing like, a KPI, a metric, etc. So it's really about putting yourself in the customer shoes, right? And understanding, okay, if I use this piece of data to improve the experience, am I really improving the experience? Is that really the case? It's not only because I have access to a piece of data, such as people front lawns, because that's unfortunately public data, right? It's out there. It's not because you have access to it that you should necessarily use it and that it's going to land well with your audience. So you have to just, because we say like it's data driven, but it doesn't mean that you just throw the data or use the data without thinking it through. Really, you have to think it through from the customer's point of view as well, from their experience point of view.
Thanks, Anna. And Jay?
Users are losers. That was the saying that was for the drug thing. Users are losers, don't use drugs, for anyone that's old enough to remember that. There are two industries that call people users, and tech and drug addicts. Those are the two. Users are people, and people have different motivations and different journeys and pathways through. Look at Starbucks versus Dunkin'. The typical Starbucks customer is mission questing, driven by purpose, status, and elevated experience. A typical Dunkin' person is a quality seeking, driven by inclusion, and they want unpretentious connection and accessibility. What I just talked about here is psychographics, not demographics. It's not a 48-year-old man or woman in New York City. It doesn't matter. There are thousands of people like us, and just because you live in a certain place and you have a certain yard, that's a tactic. If you understand your customer and you align your message with your customer's decision-making process, that's how you build long-term loyalty. And I've been experimenting a lot with this technology called Agile Brain, which really gets to the bottom of the person's motivations. And I personally think that if you take those motivations and focus on understanding the psychographics, the why, then you combine that with the demographics, which is the what, and then you understand the behavior, like maybe you combine it with the how often they come into Starbucks, then you have a full holistic profile of a person, and you start to understand what it is. And then if you add on top of that, the cherry on top would be that you actually have an ongoing dialogue and conversation with this customer that says that, we collect things, but we collect it to serve you. And, if you give us this data, you're going to get a benefit. And so that is the ultimate for me.
I like that point a lot, Jay, because I think it speaks to first-party data that's derived from potentially interactions. There's ways to maybe think about third-party providers, but as you pointed out earlier, you have to be careful with the data quality on that. But some of that can be derived through a history that you might have with a customer. What value does that brand seek? Which gets at a component of this panel is also compliance, right? So we're trying to achieve personalization. We're trying to drive business outcomes, but there's also privacy laws. There's things like GDPR, CCPA. Their successors have been, for the industry, somewhat of a moving target as new jurisdictions adopt new policies. So how can organizations build a privacy by design data architecture that's flexible enough to adapt to new regulations without requiring a total system overhaul every 2 years? And I think, Amar, you and the Osano team probably have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And I'll say, we're the tool people. And I think I want to set this up and listen to Jay and Anna, because they are the more of the philosophical. They're going to tell you, they will articulate what the thinker should do. And I'll say from a tooling perspective, we're here to serve. So I would say, broadly, you can look at it as there's two ways to go about this. One way is to adhere to the strictest standards everywhere. It is actually safe. You can actually do that. Now, the problem is, that means you're not going to have data from places where you could legally potentially collect more, but it is a choice and you can make it. Now, it's not going to be a deal breaker for several, and we have customers who are comfortable with that way, but because it's almost like a risk profile. So that's one way, right? So you're safe because you're acting very strictly to the letter of the law. You're way far from those boundaries, if you will. There's the fence. I'm so far. I'm good. I don't see the fence line. The other one is to actually tailor the privacy to your user's jurisdiction. So you have to be, if you're going to do this, make sure you're doing it well. So you're like, I understand this visitor actually has different freedoms, and I have different freedoms in how I communicate with them based on their place of residency or for the legal restrictions. But to do that, that means you better be smart and don't try to be clever and abuse it. You do that because you're getting the permission and you're staying well within the boundaries still, and you need a tool that actually can understand it. Now, I'm not here to talk about Asana, because we're talking about, I don't care what tool you use, but understand that the tool actually does it for you. And I really I wrote down what Jay said, right? Align with your customer's decision-making process. It's funny, like Osano has a guaranteed thing. It's not about the money. What we do is that says we have skin in the game. It's our way of deliberately saying we align with you in the decision-making process to say, how do we get on your side? So for me, before I turned on, I would say think about tailoring your data architecture. Think about who you have in your team, who are the thinkers, what tools they have, and if you have to pick one, start conservative. But if you're comfortable, you understand, and you have the right tools, be deliberate, be diligent, never stop communicating. But you can also be different. You can customize the tool to give you the right data in the right place with full transparency.
Thanks, Amar. Well covered from a tool perspective. Anna, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Privacy by design. You've been at so many brands, global brands, where so many jurisdictions have touched. Any best practices you've learned along the way?
Yes, data governance, right? So those things need to be kind of explained and shared, especially with marketers, because marketers are the closest ones to how data is collected and then activated, right? So data governance also ensures that not only the platforms take care of it, because it does for sure, but then at the point of collection, you also had the proper consent, right? And that was captured, and there was a timestamp on it. So those are the things that the governance really captures and shares throughout the teams. And in my case, at least in my experience, having the marketers have skin in the game also helped a lot. Having them understand that if they get this data consented right from the get-go, the ingestion, digestion, and unification of that data can be much easier and much faster, and that data can be ready for activation much faster than if they didn't do that in the first place, right? If they didn't go the privacy by design. So and we had like ways to help them see it and to facilitate activation if they were compliant versus not compliant. And that really helped, I think, drive the point home, at least for marketers. So that's my experience.
It's a great point. I never thought data governance would be like a sexy topic when I went into this industry, but it's so important. We have a project right now with a publisher who's building AI tool sets on proprietary data that they've collected via research, all their articles. They have like 20 something brands. How do you think about, well, how does that AI cross those different brands for the purposes of employee smarts or a user experience? You have to get that right up front. But yeah, and thanks, Jay. Your thoughts on this privacy by design, how we balance?
Yeah, I mean, I love it because I start with an answer in my mind, and then everyone builds to the answer. It's like, thank you. This is a very well selected panel. Governance is ownership. Okay. And so, yes, you can have a proper governance committee. Believe me, I worked at big companies. I was on the digital initiation committee. Any digital project that happened at MasterCard, I sat on the committee that reviewed it for my period of time. And you could say yes, or you could say no. And you have to give a reason. And there has to be a person behind it. Now, a lot of the people that are listening to this or watching this come from companies of all different sizes. And if you have a company that's a little bit smaller and you don't have an individual who has skin in the game, who is personally accountable for the voice of governance, then you don't really have much. You can't just put a tool in place and think this is all going to work out. This is a strategic decision. And the other thing I'll add to this is it's not just about governance. The word compliance is thrown out a lot. And if you don't look at it as compliance and you look at it as an opportunity to get closer to your customer, to serve your customer, then the whole thing shifts. If anyone has done therapy, you might have learned that two things can be true at the same time. And, you could imagine it as, oh my God, this is a horrible thing. We need to be compliant. Or you could look at it and say, wow, what an opportunity to get to know the customer, to serve them, to meet their needs, to give them something of value through data, to not creep them out with a silly ad that shows their tactic of their front yard. No one wants to see that. I want to see a company that if an incident happens, for example, and there's a hack, There should be a person with a name and a title that is signing the letter that said you've been hacked and this is what we're doing about it. When the company writes the note, or the university or whoever it may be, and it says we've outsourced this data breach compliance to some company, and we're sending you access to you can get your Experian credit report. It doesn't make me feel good about anything. So it is about ownership, and it is about looking at it as an opportunity, not as a compliance loop that you have
Especially when it shows up a year late, Jay. Hey,
Yeah, well, that's true.
And well, a year later, use this.
I'm not naming names, but this has happened a lot in the last year.
So I just checked the questions from the audience, and they're piling in. Reminder, audience, start to get any questions in. Give as much time as possible to those, but if each of you panelists could take 20, 30 seconds and say, what's one tip you want to leave the audience with today? And Jay, let's start with you.
One tip is don't underestimate your audience, and try to bring psychographics into the conversation. I don't disagree with anything that was said by anyone on this panel. We have a bunch of ethical marketers that are doing great things. We are not at the Clean Data Alliance here to tell you need to stop doing things that are common best practices in the industry today. But keep your eyes open, because customers are much smarter these days. And the types of things that the industry has done for the last 20 years are starting to smell. That's what I have to say.
Well, Amar, let's go to you next.
Well, I would say, you heard it first here, folks. Data governance is the new sexy. No, it's not. We were insider. So, jokes aside, I would leave us with two thoughts. I would say number one is data privacy is marketing's remit. It's not outside. In fact, I would even say, think about earning your, I'm going to use the word person, not user, because Jay has educated me. Think about understanding, earning your customer's trust. It's kind of like building character. It's built very slowly. It's easy to burn it down in an instant. Trust is accumulated slowly. It's destroyed quick. But you can do it. But also, it is the most valuable currency. So don't forget that. You have control over it. And two, it's not a zero-sum game. Proactive privacy and trust do not have to come at the odds of marketing outcomes. Find a good partner, believe that you can do it, and you can do it. Those would be my two takeaways.
That's great, Amar. And Anna?
And mine is going to be marketers. Read your privacy policy, because the privacy policy is how you align the expectations with your customer. So read it. Understand what they expect from you when you are collecting their data. I think a lot of marketers do not read their own privacy policies, and they could actually learn from it. So that would be my tip.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been an awesome discussion. I want to move to the audience Q&A, because we got a bunch of questions come in. So I'm gonna tab over and do some reading right here. Let's see. In the order they came in, this first one is maybe more of a B2B question, but as we move into an agentic world, should we be treating leads generated by third-party LLM agents the same as human-generated leads? And is there a point where we need to distinguish between an LLM agent and a human in our identity and compliance frameworks, or should they be treated as one and the same? I can take a initial cut at this question as someone who's in a B2B organization. I would actually treat the leads the same if they came in from an LLM agent. Oftentimes, you don't necessarily know that you're interacting with an LLM in those contexts where you're talking to an agent. So I would treat them the exact same. I would score any signal you could get out of those. But there's maybe a second question that's implied there, which is, we think of agents as predominantly internal or personal assistants, but increasingly we're seeing people using agents to shop on our behalf. We see OpenClaw and what's happening with agents kind of almost autonomously making decisions on behalf of people. And I will admit, I have not gotten my head around, well, how do we treat those? Are those individuals? Are those agents? And I'd be curious to turn that over to the panel. I hope I've addressed the first one. Let me know if you disagree, panel. But I'd be interested.
I have a thought. I mean, I said at the beginning, I think probably the first thing I said is garbage in, garbage out. Leads in general are really tough. My dad was a stockbroker back in the day, and he told me a story about how he spent thousands and thousands of dollars to buy a list. And the list that he bought was sold to loads and loads and loads of stockbrokers at the same exact time. So the prospects were getting calls from dozens of brokers. Now, that was back in the 80s. But these days, there are plenty of stories that I've heard where people are buying thousands and thousands and thousands of names. You don't know where they came from. You don't know how they were collected. You don't know if they were opted in. And then you bombard them with 12 emails and or your email sequence, and you expect them to participate. And it's just like, I get those emails all the time and I'm bored of them. Like I'm a marketer, I'm the wrong audience. But if someone just somehow shows up into my inbox because I had some sort of signal that means I want to buy something, it's like a direct turnoff for me. And I have a feeling that more consumers are feeling that. We are not here to just buy your stuff. We are here to live our lives. And if you look at lead generation as, I got to meet my target, well, why don't you do it in a different way without using tech? Why don't you build a relationship on LinkedIn and have a genuine conversation? That's how Anna and I met. And we have a great productive relationship. It started from a LinkedIn conversation. And, Mar, I want to work with you based on this panel. I want you to show me your software. But that's how relationships are formed. It's not from bombarding people with spam.
And any other contribution? Because there's a few questions here. I want to at least.
Yeah, I'll keep this quick in the interest of time. I would say this. I think going back to what Jay said, there's a lot here, right? I think what people forget is a lot of this is coming from almost engineering first places, which is good. We need innovation. They're pushing a lot of stuff, and they are madly dashing towards adding value in their mind. How do I give utility or whatever, right? I think the tricky part is to not realize an agent doesn't fully represent my interest. Not all stores are equal. Yes, I love the fact that you can shop for me without friction, but store A is very different. They know me. I might give you different credentials and freedom. Store C, I don't know. So I think in our rush to remove friction, sometimes we are not involving the actual human being in the conversation. And I think we're all struggling with this, Craig. I think we browsers, we didn't see the model coming. We all kind of do, but I think this time it's different. So I think we need to have more of these conversations. Let trust people, bring them into the conversation. Don't just give them and condescend to them and say, it's okay, this will work for you,
Well, this is really great. I want to give, there's one direct question I'm going to jump to for Anna. So Anna, this was one that came in for you. What best practices have you found most effective for unifying and harmonizing data across systems while ensuring the data remains accurate and trustworthy? That in 60 seconds so we can wrap on time.
Exactly. That's a great question. So in a nutshell, in my experience, it was all about bringing the people that are going to use the data to the discussion. Right? So in our case, we're talking about customer data. So we brought the marketers to understand how is it that we were doing the unification to help us actually qualify, right? The data come from different sources of data. So is there a source of data that has more quality, better quality, has better data that's going to help the activation? So we involved them in those discussions, and that really helped. Right? Because again, they're the closest to collecting the data, and they're the ones that are going to use that data for activation, to delight, to engage the customer. So they should have that skin in the game. So in my experience, that's what really helped. And if you want to talk more, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, and we can continue.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you to the audience for joining us. There's a bunch of great questions in there we didn't get to. Kathy, maybe I'll work with you to see if there's ways to follow up on some of those offline. But thank you for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. For the audience, please take a moment to rate this. I know that the MarTech team takes those ratings seriously in evaluating content for future events like this one. And then for the audience, please click the red button in the Dig Deeper tab to get to your next session. And again, thank you to everyone for participating today.
Thank you, Craig. Have a great day.